Restaurant weeks are pretty popular in the city. They're a chance to eat and drink at some of the city's most talked about restaurants for a fraction of the cost. But are these seasonal promotions worth the effort for Philly restaurants? Is the experience worth it for your money? And do we even need them to begin with? Our food contributor, Alisha Miranda, joins me to talk about restaurant week culture in the city. And she shares some hacks for getting the most out of the experience. It's Thursday, February 19th. I'm Trenae Nuri, and here's what Philly's talking about. Listen, I love a good deal. Restaurant weeks are such a great way to try new restaurants, try new dishes that I may not have ordered or ever thought to order. I recently went to Condessa, per your recommendation, in January for the Center City Restaurant Week. I had the guac, the Caesar salad, the barbacoa tacos, which seems like kind of like typical foods. It's not like, oh, I've never had this before. But in the fall, for my birthday in October, I went to Amina's on the Parkway for their restaurant week when Center City didn't have a fall restaurant week. And I was able to get the salmon, which was kind of pricey, which I normally probably wouldn't get because it's $11 at the grocery store. But so it did give me a chance to get an appetizer, get a main, get a dessert for $45, which is a deal. But Alisha, do you know even why Philly does restaurant weeks? Other cities around the country do restaurant weeks, but why does Philly do them? What's the rationale behind them?
Yeah, I mean, according to my research, Philadelphia has done Restaurant Week for 20-something years now, modeled after the New York City Restaurant Week. Okay. And actually, I was trying to remember when I lived in New York for 10 years, I don't even remember there being a Restaurant Week, but yeah.
Is the New York one like specific borough, a specific like neighborhood?
The New York City one is all over New York City.
Oh, cool.
It's very similar to ours. It happens usually in the spring and the fall, or the winter and the fall. It's kind of the same model, right? Either lunch, 2 courses, or a 3-course dinner. The pricing is also very similar. So I think that probably the Center City District saw, okay, this is working in New York. How can we bring that to Philadelphia? And of course, it started just in Center City in the beginning, but has since expanded. Now there's like this premium pricing tier where you can do the 3-course dinner at $60, and that is really reserved for like the more maybe higher end restaurants or higher profile restaurants. And then other neighborhoods have adopted their own kind of restaurant week, right? So I live near East Passyunk. They've been doing a restaurant week for like 14 years. Queen Village has started theirs, I think, only like a year or two ago. Northern Liberties has one. Then beyond that, now we have Dine Latino, which started in 2020.
We'll talk about those in just a minute. But help me to understand, why are restaurant weeks positioned in the winter and in the fall?
Yeah, so the thinking is that winter is generally slow in Philly because weather.
Right, and people don't want to go out and dine like how they might in the spring and summer weeks.
Yeah, I mean, winter is just going to be slower, especially January. You have a couple of things happening. One, weather. As we're experiencing right now, the snow will not leave. 2, also restaurants, some restaurants close down in January as like their vacation. Okay. So like the end of January or mid-January is when they're back in action and they're trying to kind of catch up. And then 3rd, sports. Like it's football season, you have the Super Bowl, so you're trying to capture an audience that normally wouldn't be going to restaurants and dining out. So that's like the winter part. I think the fall part to me doesn't make a whole lot of sense because September, everyone's back from the shore and back on their regular schedule. We're back to school. So like the city's bounced back and we're in full action. I think in speaking to chefs and operators, they like the January timing. That's helpful to them, they say, but like maybe not in September, maybe do it in like July and August when like truly it's very slow in Philly because everyone is on vacation for the summer.
Makes sense. Now, explain to me why there is a prefix menu and not like all the options available.
I think I think that it's a couple different things. One, like we were talking about on our tasting menu episode, it's just more efficient for the kitchen to operate with a set menu for everyone, right? They do have flexibility in whether they want to charge the $45 option or the $60 option for the 3-course dinners. But like at least it's set in place and you don't have to like worry about too many changes and substitutions and all this. It's just more efficient. And again, on the diner side, you know exactly what you're getting. I do think that some restaurants have like, okay, if you want to come in and you don't want to do restaurant week, they will still offer a la carte. But the kind of stipulation is like, let's say if you and I go to dinner, you can't do restaurant week and then I do a la carte. Like the whole table has to be all in or not. So that's, I think, part of the reason why it's structured that way. It's just kind of more efficient and everyone knows what they're kind of buying into.
You talk to culinary professionals in the city. What is their take? Do they like restaurant week? Are they kind of caving into like the peer pressures of the other restaurants in the neighborhood? What's their take?
A lot of them have just basically pros and cons that they talk to. You know,
okay.
There's some good pros here, right? The pros is like we were saying, in winter, you get more foot traffic. You're getting more diners and more guests coming in than maybe you normally would, right? So that's an incentive. Ideally, the boost in foot traffic and the boost in diners also means then a boost in tips for the hourly workers because there's so many more people coming through the doors, and then also a boost in revenue in those slower months. Again, September maybe not as slow, but certainly it makes an impact in a January. Something like the Queen Village Restaurant Week actually did theirs last year in July, and I did speak to a restaurant owner who participated in last July and will be doing it again this year, and he was like, it really did help in July. Like we did see a lot more people come through. A couple of those people then became kind of regulars, like they came back a few more times throughout the year.
And July makes sense to me because, like you said, people are going down to the shore or traveling for the summer.
And also, like I was talking about this with my husband last night, like we don't own a car, and we don't like to go down the shore. So like for us who are really staying in the city all summer long, I'm like, I actually would be incentivized to go to restaurant week because now I don't have to like compete with everyone. Like now I feel like I have the city to myself and I can take advantage of a deal to somewhere else that might be like on our reservations wish list, right? So like it kind of does cater to us. I think the other pros that in talking with people is like you're getting new folks, right? You are getting first-time new customers. Maybe they're coming from out of town. Maybe you're getting also like younger people, like all the college students who like finally can afford to do something a little bit more fancy. So you have that. Like you have an opportunity to showcase your restaurant to a new crowd, a new audience.
See, for me, I invited my sister and she just loved the experience being downtown. She's in the suburbs. So it was like a thing for her to do Center City Restaurant Week.
Totally. Yeah. So, those are some of the pros, right? You want to make sure that there's more people, therefore more money being made, more business being made in general. I think the other pro with it, considering the timing and contextual relevance, let's say in 2020, 2021, maybe even 2022, it was a big deal to restaurant weeks happening because that incentivized foot traffic and people getting out of their houses and supporting local. Now I think the conversation really is about what can be the pros is like we're in a really bad economy where everyone is stretched. So the deals really are an incentive for people to get out of their house and spend money where they really do want to go versus just spending it out willy-nilly. So you have those two things to think about.
And they know that I'm going to get a deal.
Yes.
I've been wanting to try this restaurant. I can afford it this week.
Like the value proposition now is much more, I don't think contentious is like the right word, but it's just like front of mind more. So the value messaging, I think, is a big pro. The cons, on the other hand, from people that I've spoken to is like, well, who is coming to restaurant week? A restaurant manager that I spoke to said, his team has to kind of do more education. Like the service has to be a little bit more handheld because these are diners that are like not restaurant people. Like they don't really have maybe the knowledge of the concept or the cuisine. And so they have a lot more questions. They probably have never gone through a multi-course meal. So they need to understand how it works.
So I hear that there has to be a lot more patience.
A lot more patience on the service side. Yeah.
Right.
And also like I've heard, you know, not great stories of people just being rude, you know, whether
the diners.
The diners being rude. Like they can be rude as in demanding. You know, they are very much more nitpicky. It's like the Groupon crowd is what they're explaining to me. It's like they're very nitpicky. They're a little bit cheap. So they're very much going to be like, I paid X amount of dollars. I want everything to be perfect, even though they're paying basically half the price of what the normal restaurant experience is. What I've been told is like the demandingness of it, the being rude to servers, the not
like
tipping
a
well.
Tone and
like having an attitude, like the impatience on the diner side also. You know, service goes two ways. You know, you should be nice to people. The servers will be nice to you. So yeah, there's that. And then also like, there's definitely people that go to restaurant week, they go to that one place and then they never go back, right? So you might have to deal with customers that are truly going to be the one-time customers and you'll never see them again. And I think that there's like, some chefs are hesitant about restaurant week participation because they have to figure out the math of it all. Like if you're a higher end restaurant, you know, I spoke to a couple of restaurant owners over this last few days and they're like, okay, I can't afford to offer the $40, $45 3-course dinner, but the $60 one makes a little bit more sense because we're able to pick menu items that already exist and put them in that 3-course format versus having to create a brand new menu with maybe not as great ingredients because I'm trying to save costs to make it equitable and affordable, both for the diner at $60 and for us as a restaurant to not lose as much money. So I think before in the early days, you know, you'd go to restaurant week and you might see a menu that's completely different from the regular restaurant menu versus nowadays, like people are like, okay, I can take 3 or 4 items that exist on this menu that we already have and just put it in this 3-course format.
So bottom line, are restaurant weeks profitable for Philly restaurants?
I think they get a short blip, you know, a short increase, but sustainably and long term, no, they're not.
We'll get into some recs for upcoming restaurant weeks and some neighborhoods we'd like to see this expanded to. That's after the short break. If you're still looking for the perfect winter night out, now is your chance to check out Independence Blue Cross River Rink Winterfest on the Delaware River waterfront. For a limited time, enjoy 30% off fire pits and cozy cabin rentals Monday through Thursday. That means warm fires, twinkling lights, ice skating under the stars, and your own private space, all for less. With the Ben Franklin Bridge lighting up the night sky behind you, it's perfect for those midweek date nights. Hang out with friends or one last family winter memory before the season ends. But you have to act fast. Winterfest closes March 1st. Reserve your skating tickets, fire pits, and cabins now at riverrink.com. Before we get into some other restaurant weeks in the city, like you mentioned, what are some pro tips for maximizing your discounted meal?
So, how to make the most of a restaurant week. So the whole point of restaurant week, you know, in the ideal scenario is that you discover a restaurant, you fall in love, and then you become a regular. So there's a couple of things that I would recommend. So obviously visit a restaurant that you haven't been to, that's been on your wish list, that maybe has been, hard to get into reservation wise. Maybe now's the chance because you can experience a taste of that at a lower cost, right? I think about the people that, not me, but the RTO people who have to be back in the office in Center City or another neighborhood that's doing a restaurant week. Make it a power lunch. Like go do an extended lunch, do a treat yourself lunch. Or for freelancers like me who keep getting invites of like, can I pick your brain? Invite them to lunch and have them pay, okay? Do restaurant week, invite them out. You know, the pick your brain
so
request.
You don't want just coffee, you want a meal.
If you want to pick my brain, take me out to lunch during restaurant week, okay? So if you're a freelancer, a creative, a consultant, pull that move. If you are new to tasting menus and you're like, you know what, I don't want to spend $150, $200 for a tasting menu, do a restaurant week because it's a tasting menu format at much less.
Now, let's get into the recommendations because we've got some restaurant weeks coming up. Queen Village and Bella Vista, they're combining forces and hosting their restaurant week coming up. It starts tomorrow, February 20th, and runs through March 1st. What are you excited to eat?
So Southwark is definitely one of my favorite restaurants. So they're on that $60 tier. Southwark is also, I think, the only Michelin recognized restaurant that's participating in that Queen Village restaurant week. So I would definitely recommend going there if you've never been. And then on the lower end, I love Puyero, which is Venezuelan street food. They're on that list. So those are my two picks.
Cool. And then East Passyunk, your neighborhood,
Yep.
that restaurant week starts February 23rd next week and runs through March 6th. There are some new restaurants in the area participating this year. Tell us about those.
So I would say Souprette would be the place that I would recommend. You could do lunch or dinner there. Souprette is like a really fun like wine bar with small plates.
And they just opened, right?
And they just opened last year, so this is their first time participating. Other spots that I love that have been in the neighborhood for a while, definitely Le Virtue that we've talked about for their Italian food. And then you can do Perla, which is Filipino. It's the kamayan, which is like family style eating, and that's $40. So those are my picks.
So my critique is that not enough neighborhoods have restaurant weeks. We know Center City, we know Manayunk, Northern Liberties, East Passyunk, Queen Village, and Bella Vista, which are great. But I feel like other neighborhoods need a restaurant week.
Yeah, I think it just takes a lot of organization. The East Passyunk one is, it's been going on for almost 15 years. As someone who's lived in that neighborhood for 10 of those years, going on 11, that neighborhood business improvement district and the Civic Association, they're just like really hands on the ground, boots on the ground, always talking with those restaurants, the ones that are coming in, the ones that are going out, the ones that have been there for years. So they have a much more collaborative relationship with the restaurants. And I actually spoke to a woman who helps to organize that. And it's basically a two-way street. They talk to the restaurants about what they want to do, how they want to offer their menu pricing, and they've been getting an increase in return restaurants participating every year. So I think it requires like a collaborative effort between the restaurants that are in that neighborhood and then the neighborhood leadership to come together and figure out what would be the best way to offer restaurant week or something similar to that. And I think that's what Queen Village did. So Queen Village started out with just people in Queen Village, but then this year they're expanding it to invite Bella Vista and then South Street Head House District. So they're all coming together. They all worked with and talked with restaurants in those three, little neighborhoods, and they all got to figure out, who wants to do what. So you'll see that they have the three different tiers. Not every restaurant is in every tier. The restaurants got to pick, like, I want to be part of the $60 one, or I can afford to do the $40 one.
All right, let's talk about some other restaurant weeks celebrating cuisines from around the world, really. You mentioned Dine Latino Restaurant Week. That's coming up in April. Then you have the African Restaurant Week, which includes participating restaurants in Southwest Philly, and that's going to be happening in June. And then Asian Eats Restaurant Week. There hasn't been any announcement if Asian Eats is going to do a restaurant week this year. So we'll look out to see if there's any updates on that. And you mentioned like just kind of the organization or the leadership of like community development groups. The Asian Eats comes out of the Asian American Chamber of Commerce.
I think it's an important point to bring up that the Chamber of Commerces are involved.
Yeah.
Same thing with Dine Latino. It's the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. So you need like a government arm or a civic arm to support you. Visit Philadelphia does support some of these restaurant weeks, and as they should. They're the tourism bureau for the city and for the region. But yeah, I think, some of them are smaller than others because maybe it's a little bit more of a DIY effort. Although the interesting thing when I was looking up Black Restaurant Week, there's a national Black Restaurant Week.
Yes.
And then there's like the Philadelphia one specific, which is pretty cool.
The Philadelphia specific one is African Restaurant Week, but the national kind of push is the Black Restaurant Week. African Restaurant Week is happening kind of when we're going to be watching these World Cup matches in the city. And then Black Restaurant Week is happening in June. And June, as we know, is Juneteenth celebrations as well. That's also significant about that timing and the relevancy to all that.
Yeah, and then Dine Latino usually has their fall one during Hispanic Heritage Month. So, the cultural relevance is important. I think also it's a nice reminder, especially for the Dine Latino, the African Restaurant Week. It matters because both of them have a sizable population here in Philadelphia. So, Latinos are the fastest growing ethnic demographic in Philly. And then for African Americans, that is a sizable population that we know is in West Philly, Southwest Philadelphia, like Germantown. So it's nice that these restaurant weeks are kind of concentrated in those pockets where their communities are.
So, Alisha, should Philly look into alternatives to restaurant weeks, or should we just keep them?
I think we should look into alternatives, to be quite honest. Something I was thinking about that I miss kind of pre-pandemic are the night markets that we used to have.
Yes.
The dollar strolls.
Yes.
I think those were really fun because you got more small businesses involved. So I like that. And it was a walkable thing.
Do we need more restaurant weeks throughout the year, like every 2 months, or one restaurant week as a city in January?
I like the idea of one restaurant week throughout the entire city in January and in July or August.
Okay, right.
In talking with people and just from my own experience, I was trying to think do we even need a restaurant week? And if we don't have restaurant weeks, what else could we possibly do that's a little bit maybe more creative or motivated? And I think for me, it's I personally don't think a restaurant week is the solution, but I do think right now in this economy, we do need something that is fun, special, and truly that one of one limited time only experience at restaurants that feels a little bit more curated. It isn't just the same thing that we've been doing for 20 something years now. So Dine Latino has their own version of Restaurant Week, which is basically you get a free app or dessert when you buy 2 entrees. So basically it's a low risk for them, right? They're just giving away maybe a $10 or less plate. They do also, Dine Latino, have a chef's tasting, which is a ticketed event. It's capped at 40 people, and you're all gathered around a private kind of supper club style room. You have dinner together, and my friend who did it last year said that was way worth it. Because they were able to make some money. She got to introduce her cuisine in a brand new format.
Seems intimate too.
It's intimate. Her restaurant is kind of fast casual. So she was able to do a plated multi-course dinner, which she's never been able to do. She got really wonderful feedback. She got new customers out of it. She's that to me was worth it. Her restaurant has participated in Restaurant Week for Dine Latino since 2020. But she says year over year, it's declined in business. People are just not coming through. She was I had maybe a handful of people come through versus the 40-person dinner was just way more successful and effective. And I just keep coming back to in this economy, chefs are dealing with inflation. Everything costs more to run a restaurant business, to run a food business. At the same time, diners are, we're getting pinched for our pennies because everything costs more. So I don't know what the solution is, but it would be really cool to come up with something that does serve all restaurants that are struggling and in a way that, again, not that it's exclusive, but it's a little bit more special. It's a little bit more thoughtful. It's a little bit more curated. It's a limited one-of-one experience. That's what I think I would be more excited about rather than, all right, let's go to Park again for $40. You know what I'm saying? I just want to see a little bit more excitement and variety.
All right. That was Alisha Miranda, our food contributor. Thank you so much for all these recommendations.
Yeah. Enjoy restaurant weeks if you go. Report back.
That's all for today here on CityCast Philly. Let us know the best thing you've tried at a restaurant week. Send us a text or call us at 888-259-8170. Also, send this episode to a friend and make those reservations. Also, if you could, rate the show, leave us a review, and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to sign up for our morning newsletter to learn more about what else Philly's talking about. And don't forget, you can support the show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Philly neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with the Friday News Roundup. Talk to you then. Bye.